Good evening, everyone. If you're joining us, we will be starting very soon. I'll just give you a few moments to settle and get yourself comfortable and prepare yourselves for an evening of great speeches. So we are going to make a start, I think. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's event. My name is Neil Cooper, and I will be your host this evening. As the speakers that you're going to hear this evening have been working to develop themselves as public speakers, and they have got extraordinary stories to share with you this evening. They are people just like you. They are professionals. They are people from all walks of life. There are people from different countries, different cultures. But what they all have in common is they have a desire to share their stories in order to make a difference to other people. And many of them are doing this through their own entrepreneurial action, and some just have a really powerful story that they want to share. We've got topics, ranging from career success, relationships, how to overcome self-limiting beliefs. These are things which are so relevant to us all, me included. There are sometimes more difficult subjects that people may speak about. People may speak about their own struggles, their own challenges, especially in terms of, for example, mental health or dealing with domestic violence, conflict. But anyway, what we're really interested in is, this platform, and we're really grateful to you all for being here to listen to our speakers and to hear what they have to say, because without an audience, there really is very little point talking, isn't there? So who am I? You might be wondering. My name is Neil, as I said, Neil Cooper, and I come from London originally. And, what qualifies me to be here this evening? I am somebody who has worked in the learning and development industry for a long time. I've worked as a training consultant for the past 16 years very intensively. And the area that I really specialize in is public speaking. So I'm really, really interested in accompanying people so that they discover within themselves the power and the freedom and the self-expression, if you like, to be able to share their messages with others in a way that is not hampered by embarrassment or lack of self-confidence or shyness, if you like, or overconfidence. Because what I'm really interested in is people's right to speak, for starters, but also their authenticity as a human being. And that's what really this evening is about. It's about a platform. It's a platform for that. And I mean, I had no idea I would get into working with people to accompany them on this kind of in this kind of way in life. It definitely wasn't what I imagined I would be doing when I was born. And I was born in southeast London, in what used to be called a very working class kind of world. In fact, my uncle was himself a very, very good public speaker. He was a public figure. He was, in fact, a boxer, and he was one of Britain's most famous heavyweight boxers in the post-Second World War era. And he was very, very good at storytelling. He was a raconteur. And I myself, as a young person, got the exposure and was introduced to public speaking in my secondary school, where I began to give speeches, in fact, to quite large groups of people. And I had no confidence at all in my ability to do that. I had to improve the way I spoke, I was told by my teachers, because I sounded far too common, I think was the word. And it was an amazing baptism of fire. But I discovered that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being on stage. I enjoyed speaking to people on stage, leading events. I was a teacher for many years. I have worked as a trainer and a coach for many, many years, more than I care to remember. And I'm going to invite our first speaker to come forward. And I'm going to introduce our speakers for you, everyone, as before they speak. So our first speaker is Maria Eckstein. And the title of Maria's speech this evening is From Broken to Whole. So Maria Eckstein is a neuro-language and a neuro-leadership coach. She is on a mission to empower a more humane generation of new leaders. She believes that true leaders are aware of what makes humans human and act accordingly in leading others, as well as, first and foremost, themselves. So tonight, she is here to share with you her personal leadership journey from broken to whole. So let me invite Maria to come forward now. And Maria, it's going to be over to you in just a moment. Please, our fellow speakers, put yourselves on mute. And it's over to you, Maria.
Thank you. What a year, this 2020, hey? Well, 2020 was actually one of the best, if not the best year of my life. After years of being lost, consciously lost in the wilderness of my existence, touching my way as I was going along, making progress, but often feeling stuck or spinning my wheels. 2020 delivered a clear vision of me, a 2020 vision, therefore. And it became crystal clear to me who I was and where I'm going. My awakening started with a watershed moment in my life, a divorce. This was then 2004. Today, I can look back and say, Maria, there are worse things in life. And I can even philosophize without philosophizing, that where a door closes, a window opens. But at that moment in time, it was as if the rug of my existence was taken from under my feet. Everything that I believed in came tumbling down. I was left feeling lost, hopeless, completely broken. And with what I thought was the insurmountable task of rebuilding myself. So I went on a quest for answers and tools that would help me do just that. And as I went along, life kept throwing at me more and more challenges. More challenging relationships, job dissatisfaction, financial dire straits. It was as if the universe was kind of poking me and making sure that I would see my quest through. It was as if the universe was poking me and asking me, Maria, are you interested or are you committed? So I went along in this journey, and probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced at this stage of my personal development was when I was asked, "Who is Maria?" without me being able to find a plausible answer to the question. So, how exactly was I going to rebuild myself if I didn't know who or what I really was? Well, 2 years ago, I landed in hospital. And again, believe you me, I was lucky. It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. Where cancer was a possibility, a meningioma became my reality. Meningioma, yeah, a marble-like thing between my brain and my skull. That's it. But while the doctors were looking for a diagnosis, I was made to stay put in a hospital bed for a week. And as it so often happens when we stay put, when we enjoy some stillness, it came to me the realization that up until then, I had only really scratched the surface. If I really, really wanted to get to my destination, I would have to go deeper, dig much, much deeper. I would have to dive into, the deepest crevices of my being and rebuild myself from there. So, and the journey carried on. Fast forward to 2020. And again, I was made to stay put. Well, as a matter of fact, the whole world and myself. And again, with that stillness, the quest continued. And through a web of wonderful synchronicities, the tool, quantum healing, that I've been looking for, finally delivers me to my wholeness. Quantum healing? What is quantum healing? I can hear you ask. So let me tell you. Quantum healing is a branch of NLP. But rather than a two-dimensional approach where the subconscious becomes conscious, quantum healing has a three-dimensional approach, aligning subconscious, conscious, and unconscious. Or if you want, mind, body, and a higher version of yourself. So that was what delivered me finally to my destination, because you see, quantum healing is more than a management tool. It's a resolution tool. And I became to the resolution of me. So, my friends, let me make you an invitation. The next time that life throws at you some challenge, rather than asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Ask yourselves, why is this happening for me? Stay with the question, stay curious, see where it takes you. And I can promise you that at the end of the rainbow, there's a beautiful jackpot, the true, authentic, whole you. Now, most of us are born whole. That is my belief. But slowly and steadily, life starts chipping away, bit by bit, that wholeness of ours, until we come to a point, some more than others, that we barely recognize who we are. But this story is really not about me. This story is about our human journey, how I believe that we are more, so much more, than we are led to believe. Like we, as humans, in this journey deserve to be aware and have nurtured this human experience. How I believe that we want and we need to actually be cherished and shown how magnificent we are. This was my journey, and if I could do it, so can you. So come on, take my hand. Let me take you on a similar journey. And I promise you, life will never be the same again. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So, yeah, thank you very much for that, Maria. I'm always so impressed by how beautifully you speak, as that was no exception. Okay, so that was quantum healing, everyone. Quantum healing, the mind, the body, and the higher self. Now, it's been really interesting looking in the chat. Thank you for your reactions in there. Now, does anyone have a question for Maria? You can post that. You can post that in the Q&A. I'll do my best to pick it up. It doesn't have to be right now. There could be an opportunity for some questions in a while. But if you do have a question about anything that any of our speakers this evening shares, then I really want you to feel that you have the space to ask a question, because that could really be a huge contribution to us all, who are here listening. And I know sometimes audiences, when we're in a live situation in a room, in fact, many people actually feel a little bit nervous about asking a question. But I think in this forum, in the digital forum, it's even easier, isn't it? It's really quite easy to ask a question. So don't be shy. And it's also been interesting just seeing who's here, those of you who've shared where you're from. It's absolutely fantastic to see people joining this event from so many different places, and I'm sure for so many different reasons. So I really want to welcome you all again. If you missed any of the introduction, let's just see. Somebody has posted in the Q&A, Maria said a beautiful line: are you committed or are you only interested? Are you committed or are you only interested? And so this person is wondering if, Maria, if you can elaborate more and how that might help us develop.
Certainly, it's my pleasure. So very often we want change, and we say we want change. But the truth of the matter is, once we start on this path, we have to recognize that this path is not necessarily an easy path to be. It requires persistence, it requires courage, because ever so often we are faced with things that we don't necessarily have to face. So sometimes we say we want to change, but we really, when the going gets tough, we kind of resist it rather than persist. So when we are committed, we stay the course and we see it through. So that is the difference. The difference between saying that your interest is say, oh, I want this change, but being committed means you will see it through no matter what it takes and how hard it might get.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for that, Maria.
I hope that makes sense.
I hope you can all see this now. You can actually see a slide on the screen with some details there about Maria, who she is, and how to contact her. So please do make a note of that if you'd like to. And yeah, so we'll move on now, I think. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker, if I may. And our next speaker is Bosse Davies. And the title of Bosse's speech is really intriguing. I mean, for the first time I heard it, I must say I was particularly captivated by it. And the title of Bosse's speech is Coaching as an Act of Love. So let me tell you a little bit about Bosse. Bosse has an incorrigible zest for life, love, and freedom. She knows love is life, touch, and words. She feels it and imparts the wisdoms of love's creative force to others. If you let her, she will see your every smile, tear, peal of laughter, or sigh of suffering. And only if you let yourself will she march with you in life's wisdoms towards the fulfillment of your goals. Please welcome Bosse, the maverick coach, with love enough to embrace the world, as she speaks of coaching as an act of love. So let me welcome and invite Bosse to come forward. So don't forget to put yourselves on mute. Everyone else, I'll do the same. So Bosse, it's over to you.
Thank you. Coaching as an act of love. Love is the greatest force on earth. We have a gross misconception of this thing called love. Love is intelligent, and its grey matter permeates everything. Love resides intelligently in every one of our living cells. Within its wisdom is the innate knowledge of life and purpose. We are love. Love knows all, feels all, sees all. In love, with love, and through love, we know what is best for us. And this we know instinctively. Just as we instinctively know that we can create love. We know what we need to live life fully, to live life on purpose, not just survive. Every fiber in our being strives for congruence, for harmony, for homeostasis, for fulfillment. Subconsciously, we strive for bliss. Consciously, we seek the path. In body, we know the journey starts from within. In truth, we search for our mission, our purpose. Clarity is what we know we require. Questions to be asked, answers to be given. Our truths, once embraced, sets us on our life mission. Coaching is an act of love. Signposts on our path, goals kept in focus till completion, accountability support when the going gets tough, personal sculpting to reach our greater selves, and much, 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 much more. Coaching is what happened to me. In the pits of despair, blindly staring out from the clouds of grief, unable to remember me, unable to remember my dreams, unable to see my way forward, and feeling really scared. A coach gave me clarity. I was gifted coaching in love, and it turned my life around. The process at times was painful, at other times sublimely hopeful, but at all times it was deeply profound. Coaching in love can navigate you through life's waters of upheaval, change, transition, stagnation, and confusion. My coach's questions scanned my soul for answers, and magically, my answers lovingly embraced me. As my answers revealed my truths, those truths magically revealed my clarities. My blind spots morphed into searing vision. Steps that I was too stuck to take, I took. And this time I knew why. Courage that I didn't know I had, I found. And this time I could summon at will. Confidence that had previously fled me remained. And this time at my instant command. I became bold enough to dream and to believe. I took responsibility. I took ownership of me. I found the freedom to deliberately create my own reality in the essence of moi. Now I live my imperfect life on my own terms, making my own mistakes and gleaning my own learnings. Ah, freedom. And is that not the ultimate gift of love? Coaching is an act of love. Coaching is love in action. Coaching is love in connection. Coaching is love. Communication that transforms. When you start asking yourself those haunting questions lurking in the shadows of your soul, when you start seeking in earnest for your own truths, when you start demanding answers like I did, you will find coaching. And through coaching, you will gift yourself purpose. You will discover your life mission. You will gain congruence, harmony, homeostasis, and fulfillment. And if you let me, as you seek clarity, I will honor your every smile, your every tear, your every peal of laughter, or your every sigh of suffering. But only if you let yourself will I then march with you in life's wisdoms towards the blissful fulfillment of your goals. Coaching is an act of love, connected communication for magical transformation. Bosse Davies, founder of Concilium Peace, coaching in the essence of I. Thank you.
Thank you, Bosse. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share the slides here. And well, thank you, Bosse. Thank you for that. It's really inspirational, as always. And let me just, okay, that's fine. Oh, I meant to show you all the list of speakers that we have. Somebody was asking in the chat, how do we get in touch with speakers? So, well, it would be good to start with the names, wouldn't it? I think that's pretty helpful. Each speaker will tell you how to do that as well, as Bosse did. She's just given her, you know, her name. She's told you the name of her business, her coaching practice. But if you look at the slide here, you can see first we heard Maria Eckstein. We've just heard Bosse. Afterwards, we're going to hear Ritesh Nigam, and then you can see the other speakers there. And this will be repeated, this slide. So, yeah, that's great. Thank you for asking the question. And if anyone has a question for Bosse, let's take a look in the Q&A. Bosse, perhaps that's one you'd like to answer. When did you find your passion for speaking and coaching?
You know, when one asks, thank you so much for the question. It's really a very important question, very, very profound. And I will have to tell you, I really don't know when. And the reason is because lately time has become elastic. I think it's more for me a question of when I discovered my passion for speaking. So, and rediscovered my passion for speaking when I summed up the courage to look at it and to hone the skills that I needed to speak. When I discovered that I needed no longer be afraid of speaking. When I discovered I no longer needed to be afraid of being there, then I took baby steps. I learned about the Speak Up Challenge and I followed through. And I did the course and I opened my mouth and I spoke. So it wasn't a when, it was a discovery of what that passion was. It was always there and taking the first step. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Bosse. I mean, one thing I was thinking as I was listening to Bosse is about this mysterious quality that I think public speakers and people interested in public speaking and leadership, of course, are very interested in, which is presence. And so this is my question to you all of you attending this evening. Just think for a moment about presence. What is presence? Is it something which is innate? In other words, some people, some fortunate people, are born with a higher amount of it. Is it something which everyone has potentially, and which can be nurtured, developed, discovered, unleashed? Because, you know, it used to perhaps be the case that our view of presence was that it was just some people, you know, some actors, for example, had great presence because they were just lucky. They've just got it. They've got it. And some people have written about this, inquired into this, and I find it a very interesting subject because it would seem a bit of a shame, wouldn't it, if the only people who have presence are those who are lucky enough to be born with it, when in fact Bosse's story was about, you know, discovering the joy of speaking and daring to speak, and she has tremendous presence, Bosse. So isn't it a shame if people don't realize that they too have presence or can have presence? And isn't it interesting to think about how you might develop it, how you might develop presence? So anyway, yeah, so some people are commenting on this, I think.
I saw someone wrote presence is the absence of thought, and that really struck me because it
Oh,
was in alignment with what you were saying, Neil. And I
uh-huh.
want to honor that person. I think the person was awed from the chat. So I just want to say a word about that. I resonate with that. I had not thought about it on my own, but I resonate with it because that was the feeling that I was able to have when I was in the course. You know, you're able to create that space where we could all get out of ourselves,
Mm,
out of our heads, out of our habits. And it was, you know, a level playing field in the space you created.
yeah,
I think what
which
that
you
allowed,
created, yeah.
yeah, it was. And what I thought then was that I am able to feel who I am. I am able to sit in who I am. And I saw, you made it look easy, Neil, but I saw that you did exactly that for every single one of us. You
Mm,
allowed us that space, that love, that freedom to sit in who we were. And you
mm,
brought out our voices, our presence. And everyone who's on this event will see that
yeah,
each and every one of us has our unique presences. And it's a
exactly.
beautiful thing to watch and hear. Thank
Yeah.
you, Neil, for
Yes,
that.
so thanks for that, Bosse. Very much appreciated. I mean, I think, you know, everyone has the right to speak, don't they? It's not necessarily a right that is necessarily honored and recognized all the time and everywhere. But I personally believe that we all have the right to speak no matter where we're from. And I'm personally interested in accompanying people in stepping into that right and owning that and sharing your story. So we'll talk about storytelling a bit later, I think, because storytelling is something that, of course, we're hearing a lot of, and that's what people are doing here this evening. But storytelling is not, you know, it's something that's worthy of a conversation, I think. But we'll talk about that a bit later, I think. So now we're going to move on, and I'm going to invite our next speaker to come forward. And our next speaker is Ritesh Nigam. Now, Ritesh's speech is entitled The Natural Law of Non-Equality, Nature's Answer to All Conflicts. So let me tell you a little bit about Ritesh. Ritesh Nigam, a trained pilot and an IT consultant, conquered his mental health issues through the art of storytelling in just 6 words. Numerous near-death incidents propelled him to think about his purpose in life. And in that quest, he stumbled upon the natural law of non-equality, which is the theme of his upcoming book and workshops. So, Ritesh, I'm going to invite you to come forward, and let's hear Ritesh. Please put yourselves on mute, other speakers. And Ritesh, it's over to you.
Hi, can you hear me? Great. All men are created equal. Raise your hand if you have heard this before. Thank you. This statement was included in US Declaration of Independence in the year 1776, exactly 244 years ago. And you know what? Exactly 244 days ago, on May 25th, 2020, in US, George Floyd was killed. And the reason was inequality. 244 years and days. I wonder where we went wrong. I really wonder. Okay, let's correct one thing right now. Let's update this outdated statement. So, all human beings are created equal. Good? But do you truly believe that? Well, I do not believe that all human beings are created equal. In my opinion, this statement is entirely man made, like plastic. And just like plastic, it goes against the law of nature. The word which bothers me in this statement is equal. You know, the symbol equal is nothing but the term is. Earth is round. Therefore, earth equals round. Water is life. Water equal life. You see, all our lives are spun around the symbol equal and a huge bias created by this symbol. You know, the moment we look at a person, we instantly equate with something. For example, waiter equals poor, but doctor equals rich. Scientist equals educated. Janitor equals uneducated. Do you notice the bias created by this sign? Isn't that the reason a black person is more likely to be stopped by the police? Okay, that is police, but what about us? You know that app in your mobile where you do left and right swipe? I know it's a cheeky example, but that is a perfect example of bias caused by equal sign. You like it? Right, right. You don't like it? Left. You know, the life of mathematicians, thinkers, scientists constantly evolved around the symbol equal. And then came corporates, banks, influencers, most driven by greed, and putting all of us under the spell of symbol equal. And what did they say? Well, education equal job, job equal money, money equal stability, stability equals family, family equals house, house equals happiness, and so on. Really? Do you know? You can easily find symbol equal on your keypad, but symbol for non-equality, not easy. You see, non-equal sign is hidden, and all we know and care about is equal. I wonder how we fail to notice the existence of non-equality as taught by nature. Let me give you a simple example. This is a story of two tomatoes, both from the same tomato plant. One was wonky, and other was perfectly red and round. The perfect one ended up in a salad bowl, while the wonky one was thrown away. But it became meal of many insects. I wonder which life was more significant. Is A really equal to B? How did human beings overlook the equation that states A is not equal to B? That brings us to our problem, a problem that this speech aims to solve. It leaves us with the natural law of non equality. So, what is the natural law of non equality? Now, let me warn you, this may require you to think radically because understanding the natural law of non equality is a question of perspective. The law states that no two entities, objects, people, animals, feelings, or even moments are equal to one another. That A and B are non equal, they coexist, but neither one of them is greater or lesser. They cannot be compared, they simply coexist. You see, when we say equality, we compare. When we say inequality, we compare. But when we say non equality, we do not compare. Isn't that a light bulb moment? A eureka? Well, for me, it definitely was. Now, you might be wondering, who is this fellow giving us a lecture on equality and challenging the age old wisdom? 244 years old wisdom, to be exact. Hello, my name is Ritesh Nigam, and I understood the natural law of non equality while I was recovering from my mental health struggle. During this time of crisis, I was trying to make sense of my life. I was constantly asking myself why we compare and judge each other. Why do we equate? I needed answers. I wanted to unravel my purpose. I took a deep look at myself. I reflected on my experiences, recalled both my darkest and most defining moments. And in that process, I understood the law of non equality as taught by the nature. But for me to understand this law, to unravel my purpose, nature had to take my younger brother out of the equation. My younger brother equals no more. Yes, he is no more with us, but he is the reason why I now know that A is not equal to B. You see, my family, my society seems to think that A must equal B. That if I was academic, he had to be academic as well. If I was good in sports, then he had to be good in something. Family, teachers, tutors, neighbors, everyone was hell bent on equating him to me. An equation he failed to solve and perished. As a young kid, even I wondered why he couldn't be just like me. Do you see the bias created by this idea that A must equal B? That is a twisted reality of equality. Today, I want to shout as loud as I can so that my voice reaches the heavens, so that my words reach my brother and everyone here on earth. A is not equal to B. No two single entities, no two objects, no two people, no two animals, feelings, or moments are equal to one another. They cannot be compared. They simply coexist. I'm sure most of you have experienced the bias created by this killer equation A equals B. You must have been compared, and equally, you must have compared your life with others. If A has got this much money, then B, I should have more. If A has got a new phone, a new car, or a new house, then as B, I should have it too. If I can achieve this, then others should be able to do it too. If they are mean, then I'll be unkind too. Tit for tat, an eye for an eye. Isn't that today's reality? Delusion by the equation A equals B while being completely blind to the obvious. Look around. What is nature telling us? Every day's weather is different. The shape of the cloud changes every moment. Every plant, every flower on that plant is different, is non equal. All of us can exist and live peacefully by applying the natural law of non equality. We can learn to respect non equal opinions, non equal ideas, non equal perspectives, non equal lives. Just like the lives of two brothers, two tomatoes, and George Floyd. All these lives non equal, yet meaningful. So let me rephrase the question. Raise your hand if you believe all human beings are created non equal. I truly believe it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh. Yeah. Oops, some strange noises. That is just, I just absolutely love what you do, Ritesh. It's always so thought-provoking, so original, really so fresh, and so I really want to acknowledge you for that speech. I think it's fascinating, this idea, I think, that the equal sign, the role that the equal sign plays, which the verb to be acts as an equal sign, is one of the things which I took away from Ritesh's speech. And so I think you're quite right to point out how divisive this can be, and how the words that we use, for example, when we label somebody saying, you are this way, you are mean, you are unkind, etc., etc., the way we label people causes and leads to conflict, doesn't it? Because we are equating that person with that. So we are, in fact, summing them up, as opposed to a person being almost an endless set of possibilities. You know, we're not an object. We're not a chair, we're not a table with fixed properties. You know, we are human beings with endless possibilities. So it's a very, very profound, I think, and thought-provoking speech. Just want to check in the Q&A. So, okay, so just to acknowledge this, right? So a couple of people have asked whether they might be able to have the contact details for Bosse. So Bosse, if you're hearing this, please can you help us out there, because we don't actually have a slide with your contact details on it. So maybe you can share that in some way. So that's just to answer that question. I can see a question there. Maybe Ritesh, you could take this. What about physiological justification on non-equality? So the physiological aspect of non-equality. Would you like to say something about that?
Yes. First of all, thank you for asking that question. As we say, when we say physiological way of dealing with non-equality, obviously we all are created differently. And that's what I'm trying to say, that we all are non-equal. That when we look at the physiological side, you know, the different colors, different breeds, different look, and that's what is the physiology in the nature. When you go to the nature, that's what the example was, that the comparison between two tomatoes. The nature shows us that it creates non-equal products, non-equal fruits, non-equal flowers all the time, coming from the same plant, coming from the same soil. So why we take the physiological nature of human beings and start discriminating or start performing, the mental judgment? As I mentioned in my speech, that a black person is the possibility of him being stopped by a police. The physiological nature is huge. And I think if we understand that we all are non-equal, then we are not looking always for comparing ourselves, but respect each other.
Okay, thanks, Ritesh. Thank you for your answer there. I'll stop the share there. So you saw on the screen those contact details for Ritesh, and I think now I'm going to invite our next speaker, Angela, to come forward. Angela Rahman. So now Angela's title, the title of Angela's speech is "My Brain Tumor Was the Best Thing That Happened to Me." So who is Angela? Let me tell you a little bit about her. Angela Lee is an author and English media lecturer. She enjoys writing and last year published a book of poems, Is Life a Cruise? She is a survivor of domestic violence abuse and has utilized her communication and creative skills within her community by hosting her own radio chat show that supports entrepreneurs and SMEs and discusses topical issues that include domestic violence, well-being, and mental health issues. And she's here to provide some tools and tips. So Angela, I'm going to put myself on mute and then it's over to you.
Great. My brain tumor was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the most meaningful change in my life. I recall back then having a panic attack. My heart was racing uncontrollably as all the phones in the car started to ring and everyone was frantic. My kids shouted, "Mom, it's Dad calling." And I recall back then, why was he calling? Why was he calling all the phones? Knowing full well that I was not able to answer the phones because I was driving. My ex-husband was trying to incite fear and control as he kept tabs on me. Back then, we were walking on eggshells. We were living in fear. It was difficult for us to be ourselves. My ex-husband had mood swings and it will fluctuate from any given moment. And we were literally walking on the edge because his moods would explode at any given moment. And if I dared to question his behavior, then he would gaslight and pretend that nothing happened, questioning my reality. And this was a game of his. In 2020, the UK's largest mental health charity Refuge reported 700% calls to its hotline in a single day. Women tend to be victims of abuse. And in 74% cases, victims of abusive crimes are shockingly women aged 16 to 19. Back then, I remembered having headaches. I had already suffered from migraines, but this time my migraine was actually intense, and this led me to go to my GP. And it was then, having done blood tests, that he discovered that I actually had an enormous brain tumor that was about to explode in my head. And so I was rushed to hospital, and luckily I did not have to take an operation, but I was given medication which helped to shrink my tumor. I recall returning, and I was actually in the car with my ex-husband, and I was sharing my dilemma, and I noticed how cold and detached and caring he was. And it was then that I had a light bulb moment, and I thought to myself that my marriage was in balance, and I needed to take control of my life. Today, mental health charities that have conducted surveys with adults and young people, organizations such as Young Minds have actually recorded young people and adults suggesting that they are struggling with their mental health. In fact, 69% of adults and young people today are struggling with their mental health issues, and COVID-19 has been such a struggle for them to cope. We have students in schools and students in universities and families struggling to cope with their mental health. I came to a realization that my ex-husband's toxic behavior was as a result of not resolving his unfinished business of his childhood. And as a result of that, he projected it onto myself and my family, and I struggled with psychological abuse. And you may ask, why did I stay in the marriage for such a long time? I mean, 20 years. But I stayed because of the love of my children. They were babies back then, and I did not want them to be raised without a father. You see, my parents divorced when I was 3, and I never met my father, and I guess the loss of that made me caretake my way through my toxic marriage. My brain tumor was the trigger that I needed to seek counseling and therapy. And I realized, I actually appreciated that I did not need to play that caretaker role anymore. And that in fact I had unfinished business of my own. I became a caretaker. I developed codependent tendencies. And this was a result of my own abandonment issues that I struggled with during my own childhood. I became obsessive with solving people's problems, and I became an enabler and a rescuer, which is an unhealthy way of helping. I believe that my brain tumor was actually a blessing in disguise, because it compelled me to choose me. It compelled me to love me. It compelled me to come out of this cycle of abusive relationship. It compelled me not to confuse or equate love with pain. I understand that neuroscience experts have linked trauma with brain activity, particularly in terms of recovery. Breathing and touching helps, and I found myself meditating and practicing mindfulness techniques and prayer, and that helped me enormously. I have become more vigilant, and I am more aware of red flags, and in previous relationships I have ended because I refuse to tolerate mistreatment. And so, to anyone out there that are struggling with domestic violence and mental illness, I want to encourage you to not equate love with pain. I want to encourage you that you're not responsible for your abusive partner's behavior. And for the perpetrators out there, I want to strongly advise you to seek help for your unfinished business of your childhood, because not doing so is going to cause more harm and destroy lives. I want you to plan your escape and find your way of transformation. Safeguard your family and protect yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Angela. Wow, that was a very passionate speech, and thank you for sharing your story so vulnerably, so powerfully as well. And I think, you know, that makes me think of storytelling, you know, and why that is so important. You know, public speakers are storytellers, are they not? This is the way of the world today, storytelling. But the thing about stories is, you know, I could tell you endless stories, but you wouldn't be interested after a while, because you might be wondering, what's in it for me? But see, the thing about, you know, Angela is sharing her story, and this is one of the things that everyone has been really working with as a technique, if you like. Well, it's my story to help you, you know. There is little point me telling you a story if that story does not have a message for you. So I'm just looking on the slides as I speak there. So if Angela, if you'd like to put any contact details and so on into the chat, then you can. Because I've noticed in the chat we've had, no, in the Q&A rather, we've had a few questions from attendees who may have missed some contact details, or there isn't a slide necessarily for a given speaker. That is the case, incidentally, everyone. Not every speaker has a slide, but so I'm going to leave it up to the speakers. If you would like to put your contact details in the chat or in the Q&A, then please do. You can answer directly, or you can put it in the chat. So it's entirely up to you. But you will receive contact details after the event. You'll receive the slides and the information, and you can always get in touch. You can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with me. My email is neilcooper@speakupchallenge.com, which I will put in the chat. There we are. Hope I've spelled it correctly. Yes. So, so if you have an unanswered question like that, then you can always reach out. Yeah. So, you know, storytelling is the thing that we're interested in. We're interested in people sharing their stories because those stories are designed to make a difference to others, and that is why storytelling is so powerful. It's much more powerful than advising people, telling people what to do, educating people, and so on, because we all know what we're like, us human beings. When someone tells us what to do or advises us, we have a great tendency to resist, do we not? Whereas a story involves emotion, and there was a lot of emotion present in Angela's story. And the thing about a story is when I'm listening to a story, it brings me back to my own life. It makes me question myself. It reminds me of things in my own life. And this is why, everyone, this is why storytelling is such an important technique for public speakers, of course. Stories are engaging. They involve emotion. And if a story makes and delivers a powerful message for others, then it really works. What you don't want to be doing is telling stories because you like telling stories, but those stories have no message, no point for people, because you'd be surprised. People then do really switch off. And I've seen it firsthand, how even great, entertaining, funny stories fall flat because audiences want to know what's in it for them. Why am I listening to this? And this is the kind of thing that we're going to work on as storytellers. So, right. So, are we all back? I hope people can hear me. Somebody was reporting or questioning whether there was a problem with the sound. Not as far as I'm aware, but yeah, I hope you can all hear me and that we're good to go. So we are going to move on to our next speaker, unless we have a question. Let's just check. Okay, no particular questions have come in, but I would invite you to be thinking about that question that I asked you before the break, which is how to overcome the fear of public speaking. I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on this, what techniques you think would help people overcome their fear of public speaking. So you could share that in the chat. And we're going to invite our next speaker to come forward. And this is Eve Mapanda. No, yes, that's right. So Eve, you're going to be speaking next. And the title of Eve's speech is The Audacity of Altering Your Mindset. So let me tell you a little bit about Eve. She is passionate about helping people overcome self-imposed limitations so that they can transform their lives and fulfill their purpose. She has created the life she dreamed of against all the odds, despite being a teenage mother and battling with anxiety and depression at an early age. Today, she speaks to inspire others, to help them challenge their thinking and become the best version of themselves. She is a certified personal and professional coach, certified personal trainer, author, mental health practitioner, entrepreneur, and is a wife and mother. So I'd like to give the floor, and please give a warm welcome to Eve.
Getting pregnant at 16 saved my life. Did you know every year an estimate of 21 million girls aged 15 to 19 in developing regions become pregnant? And 12 million of those girls go on to give birth. My name is Eve Mapanda. I will be talking about the audacity of altering your mindset. See, I remember growing up, I didn't understand my own emotions. Getting into being a teenager, I was always sad. I couldn't understand my own emotions. I was bullied. And I worked so hard to seek validation from people. I was always angry. My heart was always beating. But I didn't know what I know today. I didn't know that I was suffering from anxiety. I was always sad. So I looked for love and validation from people who didn't even care about me. I remember one day, I sat down in my room and I was ready to go. I was ready to take my own life. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know what I wanted out of life. I was lost. I didn't even know what I was doing. But I had 21 paracetamols and I took them all. The next thing, I woke up in a hospital bed. And I thought to myself, why am I still here? Then I found out I'm pregnant. That moment was bittersweet. I didn't know what to do. I'm only 16. I've got this life inside of me. But one thing I knew is I wanted to keep this life. I started thinking, how am I going to tell my parents? This will carry the family name in shame. But that's what happened. People looked at me in shame. I was rejected from society. People said I would never amount to anything because I was a teenage mother. But all I knew was I wanted this life. And my parents, although what I did, they were disappointed because I was their little girl. They carried that shame with me. I no longer thought about suicide. I had a life to take care of. Of course, it wasn't easy. I struggled to bring her up. I was depressed. I suffered from anxiety. but nobody knew because I hid the pain inside and I was waiting for someone to save me again. I worked so hard to put food on the table. I was working up to 18 hours a day. But I thought to myself, surely there's more to life than this. I want to be a role model. So I started again. I went to college. I got my access to university. I went into university. I got my degree in sociology and psychology. I graduated with smiles, and those who say that I couldn't, I did. But then, fast forward to 2017. I was blessed. Blessed with a beautiful family. 3 beautiful children. An amazing husband when people say that I would never have. But I thought, I'm not stopping there. I did my master's in social work. I graduated and life was good. Then my father passed away. That day really hurt me and broke me. I went back into that hole that I once was when I was a teenage girl, not wanting to live anymore. I started to drink to drown my sorrows. So I drank. I shouted. I locked myself away. And my family had to bear the burden of the pain that I was feeling. But then I had a wake-up call because I knew I couldn't stop here. I had made so much progress. I looked at my family and I decided there is something worth living. I've come too far to quit. So I started that journey again. The journey to finding my voice. The journey to improving my mental health. The journey to being audaciously bold. Building my confidence. And teaching others how they can do that too. I am worthy of everything. I don't seek validation from anyone. I know who I am. So I went on to qualify as a coach, qualified as a personal trainer for my mental health. And I work as a mental health practitioner. Today, I transform lives. I help people see that their past does not dictate who they will be in the future. if you are ready to transform your life and take audacious action, I am here to help you take that step. I am not talking about changing your mindset. I am talking about transforming your mindset. A transformation to create the future you desire, because you are more than enough. You are worthy. You deserve to be heard. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Thank you, Eve. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Really powerful storytelling again, you know, just really great. So thank you for sharing all of that with us, Eve. And lots of really great lessons in there for us all, I have to say. That is the essence of storytelling, isn't it? Okay, great. So thanks very much. Now, if there are questions unanswered in the chat, or in the Q&A rather, please let's keep an eye on that. If there are any questions in there for our speakers, then make it clear who that question is aimed at, and then perhaps that person can answer live or type an answer privately, but that would be great. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce our next speaker, who is Anjana Gupta. And the title of Anjana's speech is Relationships, Love and Happiness. So let me tell you a bit about Anjana, or Anji Gupta, also known as Key to Solutions, is a relationship coach to help you maximize happiness in your biggest asset, family. So quite fitting that this should follow Wendy's speech, I think. Helping to balance relations to go from stress to success. So, Anjana, I'm going to invite you to come forward.
Thank you.
And it's over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, all the listeners and viewers. Thank you. Happiness. Happiness is the emotion, what we see as a perception of our thoughts. There was research done from Harvard University for over 80 years, started in 1938, and they were finding out, they were following 724 boys, which was done over 80 years. And when 2018, the director of that research, when he summarized that people were who were socially interactive with their family and friends, they were the happiest people, and they hold on to their jobs, they hold on to their family and friends, and they were healthy. The people who managed to have the relationships with their family and friends. On the other hand, the other counterparts, which was not able to make their relationships work, was either they didn't have the work because their family and friends relationships didn't work, and they were very stressed about their working life as well, and they ended up losing the jobs or not finding the partner and having stress, which led to depression, sometimes divorces, and having impact on the income. And these happy people, out of that 724 boys, the teenagers who they were following, now some of them have gone on to 90 years of their age. And the study is still continuing. usually these kind of studies don't carry on because sometimes the participants, they drop out, sometimes there's a lack of funding, or there is the people who are doing the research, they can't carry on because of the staff or resources. So definitely the social interaction with family and friends is very, very important. My belief, and as much as many others, would be if God didn't wanted us to have the family, we wouldn't have had the family, we wouldn't have mother and father, grandparents, or brothers and sisters, and even the animal world. They have their family as well, and animals even try to look after their own family and make them strong, make them more suitable. In relationships, I feel that when people are growing up, they obviously they see the love of their mother and father, and then the teachers, and sometimes there is a negative things as well which can make them fall out. And when they are growing up, they go to teenager age, and then obviously they find their partners. There are many things they like in their partners, and then they get married. As soon as they get married, they want to change each other because it was not what they used to be. And I have developed a 5-star program to help people to develop the relationships. And who am I? I am Anjana Gupta, Key to Solutions. I have got experience of 5 generations, my mother, grandmother, and myself, my in-laws, my children, and their nieces and nephews. And I moved from very little town in India to UK when I was 19. So I had a lot of experience getting to know other people, getting to settle in the new country without my own family. So the experience of having your own siblings and own family has a big impact. The 5-star system I'm saying is that first one, if I can tell you, is the ego. Sometimes we have too much ego. And as soon as we let go of our ego and try to see the ideas from the other side, and instead of assuming what they are thinking, ask, and half of the things can be solved. The second thing is emotion. Sometimes we give too much or too little value to emotion, and we start suffering with physical and mental health. And half of these things can be avoided by talking to people. And so don't suffer in silence, don't suffer in the bad relationships. Third thing is expectations. What are your expectations? Whatever you are doing, there got to be some sort of expectations. Do tell the other person who you are dealing with that what your expectations are, because somebody can only help if they know what you are expecting. Half of the time we suffer in silence on that part as well. Then the energy. We are all made of energy. Everything is energy. Wherever the energy flows, the attention goes. So if we are expecting that something is going to be wrong with that person is going to cheat me, that person is going to love me, somebody will hate me, that creates a barrier in itself. And that energy we telepathically send to the other person. And we see in that sort of way that because we are expecting and our energy is going to that person in that sort of way. And the 5th one is ego, evolve. You have to, as we are growing up as children, we have to evolve to the teenagers and then to the adults. And as adults, when we are having our own family, we have to evolve again to get on with our family and friends and the other partner. And that's where I come in. If you have, if you feel that there is relationship problems, and you are feeling frustrated, if you are feeling the sadness, then I am a coach, relationship coach, to bring love and happiness in the world. Thank you very much. Angie Gupta, Anjana Gupta, Key to Solutions. Hope I can serve you someday.
Thanks, Anjana. Thank you very much. I loved your enthusiasm with that. And I remember hearing a story that you shared before about your husband, which was so touching. So we didn't get that bit tonight, but we got your 5 E's methodology. And thank you very much anyway for sharing that with us, Anjana.
Thank you.
Okay, so keep an eye on the chat and the questions, if you will. There might be something that comes in there. Relationships is such a massive topic for us human beings, which reminds me of my question earlier. You know, if you were speaking, what would your topic be? You know, it's just so interesting, I think, hearing people's topics and seeing everyone's personality and style, and you know, the areas in which you all want to make a difference. You know, it's an incredibly rich palette, I think. So that brings me on to our next speaker. We have 3 speakers to go, so please stay with us, because you're going to hear some gold, and we'd love to get more questions and reactions from you. But our next speaker is Michael Thomas, and Michael's speech is entitled "My Life's Turning Point." And in fact, all good stories have a turning point. If you think of Hollywood and what constitutes a story, we have certain ingredients, and that is really archetypal, if you like. So Michael's title, My Life's Turning Point. So Michael is the son of parents from Caribbean heritage, who were completely unprepared for the world of pain and struggle they encountered when they arrived in England in the 1960s. In recent years, he has personally invested in himself through education, gaining a variety of qualifications and certification as a teacher. He's taught in England for 6 years, in Turkey for 4 years, and Saudi Arabia for 2 years. And through hard work and dedication, he's now in the process of establishing his own coaching business, which he's extremely proud of, and intends to influence, lead, impact all those he comes into contact with. His passion is to encourage, engage, and equip his clients to believe in the unique possibilities they already possess, to give his clients an opportunity to go on a journey to improve their lives through drive, determination, development, and growth, allowing them to transform through the process. So while his focus is on transformational change, he also provides services for clients and people who are dealing with traumatic situations of their own. So Michael, I'd like to invite you to speak to us.
Did you know 96% of people fail when they try to better themselves or transform themselves? Let me put that into context for you. It's equivalent of a population of most major cities. So that's New York, London, Berlin, Paris, Istanbul. Let me ask you this. What would it take to transform your life? What would it take to transform others around you? Family, friends, co-workers, colleagues. What would it take for you to influence and transform the world around you? But first, I want to share a short story with you. I'm going to take you on a journey, and I want you to take every step with me as I take you on this journey. Imagine, if you will, a 12-year-old boy was once told that he would never amount to anything, he would never achieve anything, and he would end up in the gutter. Now think about that for a moment. How would you feel if someone said that to you? Now, this young boy went through life believing these words. He took it through his entire school life, he took it through his work life. And he totally believed this. That's all he ever believed. He started engaging in negative activities like low self-esteem, self-loathing, lack of confidence, comparing himself to others, and the fear of failure. He also used phrases like, I'm not good enough, feeling unloved, I'm not worthy. He found himself in this difficult situation. He was in pain and he wanted to change so badly, but things seemed to go from bad to worse. Now, that story I've just told you is entirely true, but that young boy is me. In December 2008, Boxing Day, my mother passed away. My mother was the building blocks, the foundation of the family, and this left a huge hole in my life. Forward to 2009, the following year, I went through a divorce. I felt part of me had died. I thought the pain would just last forever. But I do know this, there was no measurement for pain. Pain just simply hurts. Now, over a weekend, I had just done a 12-hour shift and I came home from work. What you must understand is that there were many factors that were affecting me in terms of desperation, hopelessness, bereavement, pain. So I came home from work and I grabbed a bottle of alcohol, put it on the side, put down some tablets. I went to the living room, grabbed the curtains, slammed them shut. I was sitting in darkness. And all I did for 2 days was literally stare at this bottle and the tablets. I hear you say, well, what was your intention? My intention was to take my life there and then. What was my thought process? Well, who's going to miss me? Did anyone care? I had no self-worth, no self-value. I had no future. I didn't want to live with the life I had now. So as I was sitting there staring at this bottle and tablets, there was a message left on my answer machine. It was by my mother. The message went like this: son, if you're there, pick the phone up. Whatever it is, we can find a solution. You're my son, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. As the tears began to well up in my eyes, I felt then and only then that my life truly mattered. So as my heart was beating faster and faster, I felt that things had to change. So after doing another 12-hour shift, I came home from work, put the key in the door, walked into the kitchen, saw my mum cooking my favourites as always, the jerk chicken, the spices, the coconut rice, absolutely beautiful. So I sat down in a chair, bit of a sigh, and over her shoulder, my mother looked. She said, what's wrong, son? I'm okay, Mum, don't worry. So she proceeded to ask me again, what's wrong, son? Again, I replied by saying, I'm okay. But mothers just know, don't they? Mothers just know when there's something wrong. So again, for the third time, she turned around and looked at me and said, son, what's wrong? So it all just poured out of me. My life's got no purpose. I feel there's no direction. I'm lost. It's pointless, whatever I'm doing. I feel pointless. So my mum turned around and said, listen, son, you don't have to accept what life throws at you. maybe there's a greater being for you somewhere else. That just hit me like a raging tornado. I thought, wow, my mother giving me wisdom, fabulous. So one evening, I was looking through the local newspaper, and there was a heading, and it said Pathway to Teaching. So I thought, great, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to go into teaching, because it's certainly not what I want to do now. So I enrolled onto this seminar workshop. And I'll tell you this, when I arrived at this seminar, there was about 400 to 450 people. But I met a teacher there that totally changed my life. So at this seminar, I proceeded to walk to the back. This seminar went on for about 2 hours. There was different speakers there talking about the different ways of how you can get into teaching, whether you've got experience or no experience. So after the seminar, people began to leave. And I was the last one to leave. So I was walking down the steps of this huge lecture theatre. And the teacher that was standing, he was going through some paperwork. I was just about to leave. And he looked across and he said to me, why are you the last one to leave? This teacher saw something in me. And I said, because I really enjoyed the seminar. It's something that I want to do. So he said to me, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And I was taken back by that. I was never been asked that before. So I said to him, where you're standing. So he said, you need to do this, 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 and this. Guess what? I went and did this, this, and this. So I went out and did a degree over a couple of years. And education allowed me to be empowered, find opportunities, and really reach my full potential. In 2013, I walked across the stage. I was awarded my BA Honours degree. My family was there. There was this huge sense of achievement, pride, and joy. In the same year, I had the opportunity to go and teach in Turkey. I had 4 wonderful years there. It allowed me to look at the possibilities of giving back, making a contribution to students' lives, not just student lives, to their parents, excuse me, in the local community and my co-workers at work. Another opportunity presented itself to me. Another 2 years, I went and worked in Saudi Arabia. That was a fabulous experience for me. Again, it opened possibilities for me to make an impact, to influence, to lead. While I was out in Saudi Arabia, I had to go for just a routine checkup. I went for this checkup, and after 2 weeks, I went back, and the doctor said to me, we found something in your blood. And I was, found something in my blood. So he said, you've got a choice. Either you stay here in Saudi and have it done, or you go back to the UK. So what I did was I flew back to the UK. Went to my local hospital. The doctors there booked me in for appointments. So I had numerous tests, MRI scans, biopsies, which were extremely painful. He then said, after 2 weeks, you come back for the results. So after 2 weeks, I went back into a room where the doctor and the consultants were sitting down, and I sat down in the middle of them. Now, this is the first time I'm admitting this, openly admitting this. He turned around and he used that word, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Mr. Thomas, you had prostate cancer. I was just taken back by that. Just as I thought I was getting my life back on track to some sort of normality, this happens. He then turned around and said, do you have any questions? Of course I have questions, you know. So the first question that came to my mind was this: how long have I got? How long have I got? So he turned around and said to me, your results are very good. Your survival rate is very good. You've got a great chance of surviving this condition. I was over the moon. You could have offered me £1 million and I would take my life every single time. It's a no-brainer for me. So from that point on, I decided to invest in myself and continue moving forward in my life. I thought I'd been given a second chance. I felt like I'd been blessed and I'm not going to waste it. So in my process of healing and transformation, I use 3 steps and I want to share these with you tonight. These allowed me to become bigger in terms of looking at my life, being my authentic self, being better, looking at what life can give you, being bolder, taking risks. If it doesn't work, learn from your mistakes. Step 1, focus on what you want. I believe most people lose at step 1. So it's important to focus on what you want. What's your dream? Is it to become a doctor, a nurse, open your own business, be an entrepreneur? What's your dream? What's your vision? So once you've got your dream, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Clarifying what you want is the key and sticking to it. That's step 1. Step 2, self-mastery. That's all about mastering yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses. What do you believe in the things that you want? Life never gives you what you want. It gives you what you believe. So if what you want is over here and what you believe is here, you'll get what you believe every time, every single time, no doubt. We're designed to win, but we're programmed to lose. So it's so important that you master yourself. Look at your thoughts, think of your emotions, look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses. Step 3, this is my personal favorite. Taking action. Why? Because when you accept the truth about our lives, and when we accept obstacles and challenges that we face, we are now ready to take action. Step 3. But wait, hold on a minute. Imagine if you were to go 5 years from now and everything in your life was 10 out of 10. Your health, your happiness, your business, your relationships, your happiness. You're more healthier, you're more successful, you're more loved than you've ever been loved before. Would you think and feel and act differently than you do today? Usually the answer would be yes. I'm going to suggest that you act from a sense of consciousness. Don't wait for 5 years. If you feel like that now, take action today. We can achieve anything we want. We can create whatever changes, what transformation we want, if we focus. That's most important at this stage, if we focus. So step 3 is about imagining you've already got it and your conscious awareness, then you can positively transform yourself into taking actions. What lessons have I learned? I've learned to expect the unexpected. Setbacks are sent to test us. Resilience to overcome adversity and obstacles. With each challenge that I've faced in my life, it's given me the opportunity to persevere, to learn, to grow and develop and to reach the best version of myself. Because I know my mother is looking down and she's extremely proud of the man I've become today. So where am I today? I hear you ask. Well, I'm starting my own coaching business. I'm also putting together and structuring a book. I'm also doing a leadership and management degree. But most importantly, I've got this renewed sense of hope and purpose through transformation. So finally, to close, my title was My Turning Point. My turning point was meeting a particular teacher at that seminar. So when you leave the room tonight, I ask you this: how will you provide a lasting legacy for yourself? How will you be remembered? How will you let transformational change find your turning point? Go for what's in your heart. You must change on the inside in order to see change on the outside. Apply these 3 steps. Think about what you want. Self-mastery, taking action. It's your job then is to line them up. Then you can take positive action. If my story connects or resonates with you, with any of you in the audience tonight, if you've got goals, if you've got aspirations, if you've got goals and dreams, I'm under no illusion that transformation is extremely challenging. But I'm living proof. I'm living proof that transformation does happen with the right help, with the right focus, with the right journey. But yet exciting and rewarding. If you want a much better life, with more of the things that you truly deserve and desire, then take some action today. There are no guarantees in life. So I invite you to join me, and I look forward to creating these transformational changes, results with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you. Just bring up your slide there so people can see who they've been listening to. And there's a lot in your story. Courage, adversity, and stories basically are designed around triumph over adversity, are they not? Another reason why storytelling is so powerful. So challenge, but vulnerability also, and emotion. It was very moving. Your tribute to your mother was really inspiring. So thank you, Michael. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm going to invite our next speaker to come forward. Our next speaker is Christine McGonigal, and her title is Menopause to Infinity, which I doubt you've heard before. So who is Christine? Christine is an Amazon and Irish Times best-selling author with her recent book, Be Life or Belief. Christine mentors ladies who experience menopause symptoms and advises them to the best doctors, treatments available to them. She's also a certified coach who specializes in bringing people from despair to the realization of what their capabilities are in all aspects of their lives. Christine is also an international motivational speaker who talks on many platforms, telling her story and advises with factual information about menopause and her own entrepreneurial journey. Christine enjoys an entrepreneurial lifestyle and thrives on helping others to do the same. So please give a welcome to Christine. Christine, if you come forward, I shall put myself on mute and it's over to you.
The average age of women who commit suicide in the UK is 51. Back in January 2019, I found myself planning my own suicide. Now, I was always a strong person, confident, smiling, always loved to be around other people. I loved my job as a security officer. I took great pride in everything that I did, no matter under what circumstances, that I give other people the opportunity to speak to me as I spoke to them. I always give people the respect that they deserved. Shortly before I took my most despairing menopause symptoms, I had actually gone and spent 3.5 weeks in Germany. I had no idea what was in front of me. I ended up having a fabulous time. I met amazing people from every corner of the world. And when I came back from there, I slept for 3 whole weeks. The fatigue was just excruciating to me. The pain that I was in from my neck right down to my toes. And I thought, you're getting old, Christine. But this just couldn't all be normal. I had to, after working for 3 weeks in Germany, then take 3 weeks off work when I come home. So eventually I went back to work. And like that, I could be working in Donegal as a security officer. I could have been in Dublin. You could see me anywhere. I worked for numerous companies. It came to the stage that I didn't know who I was anymore. The fatigue, the pain, and then I started to forget things. And that just wasn't me. I would spend my time leaving my bedroom to go to the kitchen. I'd be in the kitchen and I'd try and figure out why I was there. So I would backtrack back down to the bedroom to see, could something come to me? And no. Then I'd try and figure out then, well, where was I before this? So I was spending my days backtracking. And the more I did that, the more exhausted I got and the more pain I was in. So I spent way too many days on the sofa. When it came to the stage that I couldn't remember my own name at times, and I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't even want to go to the shop anymore, just in case somebody would try to hold a conversation with me, because I was not capable of holding one with them. In my mind, I had dementia or Alzheimer's. And I swore that there was no way my children were going to put me into a home and have to leave me there, or to have to give up on their young lives to look after me. I headed home and was planning how I was going to commit suicide and when. One morning I woke up and I had excruciating pain in my breast. This went on for a few days. I took over-the-counter remedies that I had at home. Nothing eased my pain, nothing. So much so that I was crying when I was removing my clothing. So I gave in and I went to my local doctor. First thing he said to me was, "What age are you now, Christine?" "I'm 48. Why?" "Oh, that's menopause." What? It's menopause. I says, "Isn't that something that old women get?" He goes, "No, you're kind of the right age for it. Here, there's a prescription." I refused. I wouldn't take that prescription. I asked what it was. Oh, it's just HRT. I don't want HRT. That gives you cancer. I heard that much. There's been highlights of it all over the news everywhere for years. No way. I'm going home and I'll go to Dr. Google. That's exactly what I did. Now, as far as treating myself to get myself better, I wanted to do it the natural way. The conflict in evidence on Google was just so confusing. I couldn't handle all that. But one thing that I did realize was there was a list of symptoms, and just one after the other, after the other, after the other. I thought, they're talking about me. And there, right at the top, brain fog. That was a realization for me that I was lacking in hormones. I didn't have dementia. I didn't have to die. I could get treatment and I could start to live. Then I went on my journey of finding the right treatment. I ended up traveling to the UK. I spoke with Dr. Louise Newson. I then came back and I went to the top doctor in Ireland, who's Dr. Deirdre Lundy, and we organised a plan for my treatment in a natural way. Things have moved on so far now with HRT. Reports and studies that were given out years ago have all been debunked. HRT can be given in a gel form, and it's body identical to the hormones that you have lost. Basically, menopause is your ovaries stop producing estrogen. And that's it. Your ovaries stop producing estrogen. In doing that, your estrogen then produces collagen. We have estrogen receptors everywhere, and I mean everywhere on our bodies, even here, even the tips of our nose, even on our eyes. So my body was drying up from the inside out. I started my treatment, and within 10 days, I was able to take the towels off my bed because I wasn't soaking the bed with night flashes at night anymore. From that, it took 9 months for me to stabilize. I was severe. It took 9 months for me to learn how my body was reacting to things when I was lowest on estrogen. And with working closely with my GP and my specialist doctor, I was able to live, really live. And that's exactly what I've been doing since. I've been living. I made that choice to start again. Now at the age of 49, life has just opened doors for me. Menopause made me realize that now at my age, I've started a new chapter. You see, I'm an only child. I was pregnant at 16. I was a teenage mother. I had my beautiful daughter at the age of 17. My father, at the age of, when I was 19, my father went to work one day. He didn't come home. He was in a work accident. I was daddy scared. I was distraught. I didn't know what I was going to do. At the time, my mother was an alcoholic. So for years after my father's death, I put in my time into trying to get my mother to stop drinking. As any of you know, who has had any experience at all with alcoholics, there's nothing you can do. They have to make that decision that they want to get better. So at the age of 23, I entered into a marriage. That marriage broke up in 2008. That was okay. He wasn't the one. It's fine. What I did get, though, was 5 more sons, which left me a mother of 6. In 1997, I ran the New York City Marathon. A massive achievement for me, and I was doing it against all the odds. Because initially, I wasn't allowed to go. But I defied that, and I went. And I'm so glad I did. 2011 was a very tough time for me. I ended up in court. The banks decided that they were taking my home. They doubled my mortgage with interest, and I just couldn't pay it. I got the order to leave, to get out. So I did. I was working part-time at the time, and I was able to secure another premises to rent for a couple of years. Then in 2017, there was more talks about the banks and about mortgages and repossessions, and I decided to take my head out of the sand. And I started to look into my property, because the home that they took from me had been left vacant. They never did anything with it. It went into disarray. It was broken into, it was ransacked, it was partied in. Then the for sale sign up and it hit home. So I went and looked about it, and that led to me travelling to Dublin to the High Court. And with a bit of assistance from a few other people, I put an injunction on the bank to stop them selling the property. And I moved back in. I went through 3 years of court with the banks on my own. I had no barrister, I had no solicitor. But my back was against the wall. I had to do something, because they were going to come after me for more money anyway. I stood in court, and that's one thing that I always valued, is my honesty. And that last day that I was in court, I just knew by the attitude of the judge, the way he was treating other people, he was doing things that to me were wrong. But when it came to my turn, I was just, well, it was just me. The questions he asked me, I just honestly threw them back. And he respected that. The conversation went on. And of course, in the middle of it, didn't I not take a brain fog moment? And I just stood there. I said, sorry, Judge, I've got brain fog. That look in that man's eyes was shocking. It was just, okay. He said to me, take a moment, you're fine. And thank you. We continued, and at the end of the case, the judge turned around and ordered that the house, my home, go back to the banks. When he gave the order, I was deflated. And then the judge turned around and suggested to the bank's barrister that out of decency, and out of the decency that I had shown myself over the last 3 years, that they should turn around and speak with me. We both agreed that would happen. I did a deal with the bank. I'm in my home. It's mine. I have a roof over my head and I own the key to the door. So as much as things can be tough, there's always a lesson to be learned. The lesson I learned was having the right people around me. Always have the right people around you. No matter how tough times can be, there's always a lesson to be learned. When there's a lesson to be learned, there's always a blessing to follow it. Now this year in COVID, I contracted COVID in March. I struggled for a couple of weeks and it took me a few months to recover. As soon as I did recover, I went to the beach for a walk because I'm fortunate enough to live beside the beach. I wasn't there 10 minutes when I broke my ankle. She was housebound again. But I carried on. I had been in continuous study because of lockdown. I had the majority of my family around me. The other members of my family that weren't around me were safe and out of harm's way. So COVID for me has been another lesson. And with that, carried another blessing. Now, people will say, how do you do it? It's easy. I have my health back. Now, I put on 6 stone when menopause hit. 2.5 of that's gone. I'm working on it. There's no overnight remedies, but I'm on the right path. Every day I work on my mindset. Every day I have to work on my mental health. Every day. Now, there's nothing wrong with me, but I need to work on it every day. I make sure I do. Every morning, my gratitude. When I wake up in the morning, I am so grateful that I can see. Sometimes before I can see, I can hear. I'm fortunate enough that I have trees outside my bedroom window. I can hear the birds tweeting. That's just a glorious sound in the morning. But then other mornings I wake up and I hear maybe a lorry, traffic going up the road, or cars going up the road, and I go, and then I rethink it. Well, if there's traffic on the road, that means there's people there and they're living as well, because this would be a lonely place on your own. So it's a good thing. My mindset and mental health is everything, everything to me. It takes me everywhere I need to go. Now, back when I was 19, I lost my faith. I couldn't even say I had any. Everything back then was a blur. The start of COVID, listening to other motivational speakers, listening to mentors, I found my faith again. I don't go to church, even if we could. We're still in lockdown. It's personal between me and my God. And that's good enough for me. That's how I roll every day. I do my gratitude. I do some meditation. I get out in the fresh air. I also have learned to take responsibility for everything that I do and say. Everything. Now, more often than not, you can get it wrong. I'm not perfect. But no matter what I think, that's the thought that goes into my mind. I'll give you an example. I'm right-handed, okay? So that's my strong side as far as I'm concerned. So I like to think this is my strong side of my brain. This is my positive side. This is my negative. This is good. And this is bad. So on the bad side and the good side, split in two, and you've got 2 companies here, one each side. And there's layers and layers and layers of workers in there. And you've got a manager here, and you've got a manager here. I wake up in the morning and I can hear the rain on the window, and I think, oh, I got to get up and I've got to go out and that. I'm going to get wet. Oh, it's going to be miserable all day and I'm going to get soaked and whatever. This manager's saying, Christine, what was that? Oh, it's miserable and it's, oh, this isn't going to be good. And he goes, right, okay, your wish is my command. He goes back to all those layers of workers and goes, Christine's having a miserable day. That's the way it's going to be. Because you see, what I gave in, I'm going to get that back out. And that's what I'm going to receive all day. Now, my positive side, if I wake up in the morning and I start the day with my gratitude, even if I'm not in good form, I start to read my gratitude. And once you go down a bit, you start to realize, how lucky am I? How fortunate am I? This is going in. The manager's listening. And he's going back to all these people here. And he's saying, Christine's having a good day. You ready? Let's get working. Christine's having a good day. And that comes back out. That's what I put out. And then that is just exactly what I receive. My day goes well. My day goes very well. You see, you're in control of your thoughts and your thinking. So you've got 2 managers here, but you're the CEO. There's where you take responsibility again. So no matter what I put in, what my thoughts are, that's what I'm putting out, and that is what I will receive. Now, anything I've asked for or anything I want, and I have no shame in saying that I want, none whatsoever, none. I have a vision board. I write everything down, everything. Now, when I say a board, that's kind of like a little white lie. I have a wall bigger than this one behind me. And if you were to see what was on that, you would say, oh my God, she's so greedy. Or look, she's going to be so busy. But I have a 5-year plan done. I know exactly where I'm going. Exactly where I'm going. But you must write it down. And that's another thing. There's a scripture in the Bible. You have not because you ask not. Ask and you shall receive. Write it down because then it's a written law. I've had to stroke out things just week by week by week. Didn't even realize they were happening until I go and read again. I read that wall every morning. I read it every night before I go to bed. Every night. My enthusiasm, even over the last couple of months, has grown so much because my belief in myself and my belief in my expectations. You put things out there, you need to expect it. Expect it to come back because it will. It will. Now, from someone who was going to commit suicide, I now find myself coming to 50. And I do expect to live to, I've got 103 in my head. My children are all raised. They're all adults now. So this is my time. I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I am living my life now to its full potential. Question is, are you? What is it going to be for you? Are you going to be the CEO and control your thinking and your thoughts? Are you ready to receive? I'm receiving a new car. I don't park my car in the usual spot anymore. And all the leaves, I went out and brushed them all up and I've left it nice clean space ready for my new car. There's nothing blocking it coming. I'm ready. I can help you get ready as well. What's it going to be for you? Be life or belief? Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Thank you. Let me bring up that slide there. Okay, thanks. No, that's Sanjay. Okay, just checking. Okay, thanks, Christine. Well, some really powerful stuff there. Really, thanks for sharing your story. So much vulnerability, amazing twists and turns as well, and some powerful takeaways, I think. So thank you, and I need to invite you to look in the Q&A box in case there's anything in there that needs to be answered. If someone could do that among the participants, that would be great. Among the speakers, I mean. Have a look in there, and I'll invite Sanjay Vaid to come forward. Sanjay is our final speaker this evening. Break it, make it, and narrate it is Sanjay's title. So who is Sanjay? He is an executive with over 22 years of experience in management and technology. His credentials are enormous. They're longer than my arm, and I've got long arms. But I'll give you a sense of it. A postgraduate from MIT Sloan, Salford Business School, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Indian Institute of Management, University of Liverpool, and the list goes on. So Sanjay, I won't read the whole list because it's such an impressive list. But as we're nearing the end of the evening, but Sanjay is also a published author, a consultant, researcher, public speaker, blogger, vlogger, podcaster. He's widely traveled and has a broad experience, education, skills, qualifications, and so on. So in the course of that, he's had to deal with many different cultures and situations. And he's found that a well-structured and designed oral and written form of communication is really vital when it comes to effectively communicating the intended message, especially in a time-bound scenario. So, Sanjay, I'm going to give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Neil. On an average, we speak somewhere around 100 words in 1 minute. And on an average, we hear somewhere around 400 words in 1 minute. On an average, our mind consumes somewhere around 800 words in 1 minute. Hello, my name is Sanjay Vaid, and we are going to talk about the topic, make it, break it, and then narrate it. The data points I just suggested take us to a conclusion that our minds are capable of consuming far more than a speaker or a written document will present to us. That means our minds will be wandering in such kind of a scenario of speech in terms of our holidays or our kids. At the same time, the two elements very important when it comes to communication is speaking and reading. Speaking from the perspective of the sender, reading from the perspective of the receiver. Various management gurus have realized this fact, and managers today use two techniques, skimming and scanning. Skimming is a form where you go through large amount of data or information presented to you orally or in written format. Scanning is where you're looking for specific information in the set of data that is presented. Managers divide the data into small chunks and then consume it for insightful information that can help them to take decision. They physically and mentally commit themselves in order for this task. As communicators in verbal or oral form, it is our duty to structure our data in such a way which is consumable by the receivers of the message. Marshall McLuhan, the famous Canadian communicator, had termed this phrase, median is the message, which means the more than the message, it is how it is communicated that matters. An essential element in terms of communication apart from data are emotional, tonal, physical, logical, and contextual elements. Communication, as in stories or movies, has some form of context. There is some content and a conclusion. However, this structure of communication is not effective for managers and decision makers who have time-bound decision-making, fact-based roadmap. And we have a particular pyramid or a structure which can be used. This is called the Minto pyramid framework. This was formed by a lady, Barbara Minto, some 40 years back when she passed out of Harvard Business School and joined McKinsey. Back then, Barbara found out the McKinsey consultants were struggling to structure the data in such a form where they put the best argument right up front so that they could have laid a roadmap for the decision makers to make a decision. And hence, she came up with this particular framework. I have three arguments for this framework. Number one is STM, short-term memory. Atkinson's vision came up with short-term memory model, which says any human being at any point has 15 to 25 seconds of short-term memory. Within this period, one can remember 7 plus 2 or minus 2, which is 9 seconds, or 7 minus 2, 5 items. And at best, 3 items and then 1 item. And this pyramid very well structures the information in a form where you have one solution followed by 3 to 4 arguments, and then you have the data points which are supporting those arguments. The quote by Shakespeare in Hamlet, "Brevity is the soul of the wit," rightly suits this argument. This second argument is in terms of what's in for me. While the sender of the message is very knowledgeable, authority, and might be knowing everything, the receiver of the message might not necessarily want to know everything. Remember, I just mentioned about scamming and skimming. Those are the methods they're using to run through the information that is provided to them to make a decision. Hence, this particular model provides them specific information which helps them to go to a decision-making roadmap with arguments and data points given to them crisply. And from a sender's perspective, they have sharpened arguments. And hence, the quote, "It is not the voice that commands the story, it is the ear that commands the story." The third argument is the structure of the information. And for this, I will narrate a story. One fine Sunday sunny morning, I was getting ready to go to the gym, and I was just wearing my shoe when the wife called from the kitchen and said, "Honey, can you bring some apples?" I said, "All right, I will." And here I am getting ready, wearing my jacket, and she calls again, "Honey, can you bring some banana, apple, pineapple, and also bring some potatoes and bring some cauliflower?" And I said, "All right, honey, I'll do that." And I'm about to go out of the house. And just as I step out, she calls again, listen, I just realized that there is cheese and butter also which you need to bring." And I said, "Okay, honey, I will." I go to the gym, do my workout, and then go to the grocery store. And I'm standing in the grocery store and wondering, what are the 9 things she said? Can you remember? These things had structure in them. These 9 things had 3 categories to them. They were vegetables, they were fruits, and they were dairy products. So there were vegetables, which were carrot, potato, and cauliflower. There were fruits, which were apple, banana, and pineapple. And there were dairy products, which was milk, cheese, and butter. So it was now easier for me to relate the data in 3 starter categories and had to go to 3 sections of the store. Data was well structured. It was consumable by me in my memory and recallable. Now, what if we prepare our reports and presentation in such format which is consumable and understandable by the receiver on what the sender meant him to understand? Similarly, when we are writing documents, we can bring together sentences which can come together to form paragraphs, and paragraphs that can come together to form chapters and a book or a report, which can be for 500 pages or 10,000 pages as well. In doing so, what we essentially achieve in the pyramid principle is 7 C's of communication: clear, correct, concise, concrete, coherent, courteous, and complete communication. We have to remember, communication works for those who work on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Well, you've ended the evening on a fitting subject by teaching us a lot of interesting stuff about communication itself and how communication works. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, I mean, what does it take to be a great public speaker, everyone who has been listening to our speakers this evening? One person earlier in the evening answered this question. I noted their answer, saying it takes confidence, ability to relate, and authenticity, which I thought was a really, really good answer. A really good answer. And I'd like to assert that I think we've been in the presence of those three things very much so this evening. Confidence, it takes confidence even to deliver communication over this medium. We've definitely seen this ability to relate, and we've really heard a lot of authenticity. So I want to thank you all for that. And thank you, Sanjay, for giving us that those insights into communication. And I'm sure your seminars will go down a storm. So I know you're a very active blogger and vlogger and whatnot. A lot of gravitas, I think, in your speaking. And as I loved the bit about the vegetables as well. I shall use that the next time my wife gives me a list. Breaking it down into subcategories. Because it's so dreadful when you forget something.
One thing I missed, I wanted to say, did not say. In the top of the pyramid is a solution, but sometimes there are news or information which can be controversial. So you don't put the solution right in front. In such scenarios, you use another methodology, which is called situation, complication, and solution. You define the situation, then put the complication, and then put the solution, and then go to the tree.
Okay, great. Well, I love all that stuff. I'm a big fan. So thank you again. And so I think let me bring up Sanjay's information here for you, everyone. This is what we were just hearing about. Make it, break it, narrate it. Sanjay Vaid. So you should all have, and you will receive. This is all the attendees this evening. You will receive an email following up from this event, which will allow you to see who the speakers have been this evening. And so then you can reach out, you can get in touch. As I said earlier, you're welcome to get in touch with me, Neil Cooper, at speakupchallenge.com. I put that in the chat earlier. You may have some thoughts, some questions that you'd like to ask. What do we have in the chat there? I'll stop sharing in a second. Okay, well, that was these are your slides. Sanjay, I beg your pardon for not showing them. Okay, so yes, speaking 125 words a minute. Well, we've heard a lot of words this evening, and we've heard a lot of inspiring stories. And so, okay, these are slides that you shared. Communication works for those who work at it. Well, that's a fitting sentence to end on, I think, on Sanjay's takeaway message there, because public speaking is, in my view, an acquired skill. I don't believe people are necessarily just born good at it. There are techniques. Our speakers this evening have demonstrated the techniques admirably. And so it really works for those who work at it. And that is also true for public speaking, I think.